darkness. I could totally. I was born in darkness. Who is that guy that does that? What's his name?
Bane, right?
Bane. I can't even do it again. I can't.
I was born in the darkness.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah, that was really bad. I should not get into acting.
You merely adopted the dark.
Oh, man. I'm feeling good. How you feeling over there?
I'm feeling like Batman.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. I heard that the new Batman movie is actually pretty good. Did you see they came out with another one?
I think I did. Who's playing Batman?
James Pattinson or something like that.
Oh, yeah. The guy that was in...
vampire movies.
Yeah. I can't think of it.
I mean, I heard it's pretty good. I'm like wondering... And I had this conversation with Ben. We were talking about Cloud 9.
Oh, yeah. I love those conversations.
Yeah.
Being on Cloud 9.
You're on Cloud 9. And him and his wife went and saw it. And I was like, what's crazy is like they keep remaking the same Batman movies. Like they're all the same, right? This is another version of The Dark Knight, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I guess it makes sense they're putting all this money into that because people are still going to see it, right? They'll keep remaking it till people stop buying tickets.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's actually pretty good. I'm not a big movie critic. I'll pretty much watch anything.
I'm pretty critical.
Critical.
You know me.
Yeah.
I'm criticizing you all the time.
You're criticizing me about not being critical right now.
Should we get started?
Good grief. Yes. Welcome to another episode of Unscripted Exchanges. I am your co-host, Cole. Thank you for the applause. Jimmy. Right on, Jimmy.
I think that's a live audience that we've got here today.
Yeah. Audience of one. Good job, Jimmy.
Hey, someday we will have a live audience.
We'll have like a clap, a sign that goes up and says like applause now and stuff like that.
Yes, we will.
That'd be kind of cool. I'll feel like Oprah at that point in my life.
So what are we getting into today, Cole?
Well, you didn't introduce yourself. This is Hayden.
I don't think an introduction is needed.
This is Hayden, my co-host. Today, I had a good day today, so I'm feeling like we got to hit a few topics.
I want to unpack that real quick. We say that from time to time. You had a great day. That's awesome. Tell me what made it a great day. Like, tell me a little bit more.
A balanced day. So you don't wake up every single day feeling good. Like,
right.
That's just not like part of life. You just learn like to love the really good days. You learn to just soak it in.
Mm-hmm.
The bad days, you learn to push through it.
Yep.
And by bad, I don't have a whole lot of bad days because it's a mind. For me, I have to switch that mindset. But
sure.
There are mornings when you wake up, and you're like, get out of bed. I'm tired, and I just woke up feeling like I got 7-8 hours of sleep. I only got 6 just because our daughter Blake's teething right now, so she's waking up like. When babies teeth, they're like in a lot of pain.
Mm-hmm.
So she's waking up every like 2 hours right now.
Oh,
like screaming because her mouth hurts.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't even sleep, like off and on sleep 6 hours last night. But when I woke up this morning, I felt good. Had a good work day, got a good workout. It was just one of those days where you can go like, it all flowed so well. Didn't have a lot of wandering thoughts.
Yeah.
Didn't have a lot of stress. Kind of just like one thing after the other, like check. Like things were going well. So that
you're
was
in
my
like a state of flow, is what it sounds like.
It was like, how do I recreate this? What was the right and these are the days when you're like, what was the recipe for the day? And sometimes there isn't one. Like sometimes you just have that good day,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes there's things you can pick out of it. Like I know today, I went out for a jog because it was like 70 degrees out. The sun was out.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't been out most. We've been through winter, so I went to a park. Went for a jog, did an outdoor workout,
Mm-hmm.
went for a walk down by the river. So like that, for me, that's not like that's part of why I had such a good day because I knew that I needed it.
Yep.
But if I'm looking at my recipe for repeating this day, I can't do that every day. So like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's great that I did that today and I needed that. But sometimes you can't, overanalyze it. Like today was just I was in flow today. I in the summertime I try to make time for outdoors every single day, but
Thanks for sharing a little bit more. I wanted to really know like what made your day a good day, because we just scratch the surface when we say, oh yeah, we had an amazing day. Okay, well tell me more.
I think it was a flow. I think it was one thing after the other. Just mind was right, body felt good,
Yeah.
kind of everything just went well.
Yeah, the weather definitely helps.
The weather was huge. Yeah, because
do you think? I mean, look, we're not doctors here. Seasonal depression is a real thing, but do you think a lot of times people might claim that they have seasonal depression, but it's I'm gonna just lead in with saying I think people will say that they have seasonal depression, but they don't have seasonal depression, and it's more so the fact that they're all cooped up in the winter months. They're not moving around as much, so that makes them lethargic. They feel tired. They might not be as active. Like basically, they're not moving as much as they should. Therefore, they don't feel as great. So they're not necessarily depressed in some instances. I'm being careful with my words, but I think there's a lot of people that might misuse that word or that term during the winter months.
Well, I think you're spot on because there's a balancing act, right? There are like seasonal depression. It's called seasonal depression for a reason because it comes with a season, right? Whether you're a winter person and you love to ski and snowboard and be in the snow and be out in the winter, and in the summertime is your season of, which I can't relate to that, but on the winter side of things, I don't like the winter, but vice versa. I think, what has to do a lot with that, right? If you are, I use myself as an example. I've noticed this about myself that in the spring and summer, I used to call myself the best spring, summer, and fall dad in the world. But I literally knock it out of the park. I'm like the best version of myself. Like when spring hits, sun's out, summertime, and then early fall before it gets colder. And I'm like, this is my time. This is when I feel great. But I've realized that, I used to go through, for years, I'd have those great few months, 4 or 5 months, 6 months. Sometimes it was nice. And then all of a sudden that wintertime, cold fall and winter hits.
And I was going to say winter's not 6 months long, but you're clubbing fall and
late fall.
Yeah.
Like you just start to feel yourself transition away from being outside, transition away from being active.
Yeah.
And then you start doing other things, right? So you start like maybe watching TV more or sitting on the couch more, and then you're sitting around and you're snacking more.
Right.
And then you're not sleeping as well because you're snacking and not getting activity. Right. So that kind of like creates a snowball effect. So I guess what I'm getting at is like I've noticed that in my life, I used to say I have seasonal depression. I would say that, and that's a real thing. But I do think there's ways to combat it by, for me, it's just because it's a wintertime doesn't mean I'm not going to be active.
Yeah.
Like how do I find ways to still go out and do things? And being active doesn't necessarily mean working out. It just means like not sitting around the house, right?
Yeah.
Not turning into a hermit for 4 or 5 months because it's cold outside. So what's your answer? Well, I'll flip the question back to you is what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to answer my own question as I was first spitting it out. I think that people overuse that term that, I've got seasonal depression. And again, if this gets taken out of context, I'm not saying that seasonal depression doesn't exist. It does exist. I just think people kind of use that phrase carelessly. And as I was mentioning, it's the fact that during those winter months, people end up getting into habits or behaviors that they're not normally used to doing, such as, your experience that you shared where in the past you might not be going out and about, moving around as much. You end up spending more time maybe in front of the TV or the computer and you're snacking more. So
it's a snowball effect.
Exactly.
Well,
yeah. I'm just repeating or agreeing with what you said.
And it's difficult though. I mean, right? Like we're all in that, like daylight savings just hit, right? And now all of a sudden,
did you see that they're trying to get rid of that?
I know they didn't pass that. They made it permanent. They just got like it went through Congress or something.
Yeah, like they're gonna keep it.
They're gonna keep it permanently. Yeah, because people were trying to get it. Like they didn't want it anymore. But like if you've noticed now, all of a sudden, because daylight savings was like a few days ago, Saturday night or Sunday morning.
Yep.
Now it's like the sun's out later because they pushed an hour ahead. So now it's like 7:30, 8 o'clock, and it's a mental thing. You're like, okay, my day's still going. It's just versus in the wintertime when it goes the other way, you're like 5:30 or 6 o'clock and it's already dark.
Right.
And it's like, it's a tough, it is tough to deal with when that happens, when you're like used to the outdoor stuff. But my advice to like listeners to combat it, what I've seen work for me is finding things ahead of whatever season or whatever time that you feel like you usually go through, like you repeat every year. Like, oh, most people that say I have seasonal depression, because they're saying it because they've had a few years of, oh, like I get through the winter and I hate it, then I love the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been programmed or read it that that's seasonal depression, and then really what it is like you're depressing your activity, you're depressing your like brain power, you're depressing like some of you're depressing yourself by not getting involved to some extent, I believe. So, what I did this past year before, like right when we had our daughter, is I started looking at like activities and things I could do to combat to combat that, like habits I can cut out, or going to like the horse stable is one of them. Going there a few days a week. It's cold out, but it gets me outside and I can spend time with my daughter.
Yep.
Right. So I'm staying active. So just finding little things that you can kind of say, okay, here's what I'm going to do when we get to this point. It does help a little bit.
Yeah, you can meet up with people for coffee, drinks, food.
Find ways to.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
Back in December.
Find ways to mitigate it.
Yep, for sure. Love all that. I want to jump into a new topic here, Cole, something that's been on my mind
hit me.
over the past couple of days, and it has to do with a sense of urgency and what that means in my life, and how, others should approach, having a sense of urgency. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer here, and I'll pass things over to you first, but when you hear the phrase sense of urgency, what are some of your initial thoughts, or like, what does that mean to you?
Well, it's all sense of urgency. That's a good one. That's actually a really good one. Sense of urgency to me is based around like when you are, for me, I always go straight to business.
Sure.
That's, I mean, like if you ask me what sense of urgency, my mind goes straight to business. I think there's other areas in your life where it applies, but I'll just give you my, sense of urgency to me is business and being in sales. And after having started my own company, I look at a sense of urgency as a, you got to work with a sense of urgency, not necessarily like be spastic or be, annoying or totally like overly controlling or overly obsessive. But you've got to have a little bit, you have to ride that fine line of urgency in matters and knowing some things do take time. So when I look at sense of, like, when you say like, what comes to mind? It's just things that you're doing to move the ball forward. If you can do it right now, you've got to have a sense of urgency to get it done. And if it's something that you like cannot control, then you just can't control it. Then you can say, okay, this is something that's going to be 6 months down the road. Then no amount of sense of urgency is going to change that from literally being 6 months down the road. But if somebody reaches out to you and needs something, then I believe in fast communication. You got to have a sense of urgency that says, hey, I need to respond to them so I can set a good tone of communication between me and a client, or me and a partner, or me and a coworker. I want to have that, because the flip side of, I believe, having a good amount of a good balance of having that sense of urgency would be, having no urgency at all, where everything's kind of like, well, I'll just do it when I get to it, right? I'll put this off, I'll let it all flow. And I'm a big believer in the balance between controlling what you can control, which is your effort, and your forthrightfulness, like being forthright, being honest, and then also, knowing when things are just going to take time. So I think I always just look at it in business. Like, again, I'm going in a rabbit hole, and I'm going to keep going with it though. Like if you're starting a business, right? When you start a business, you've got to have a sense of urgency to keep you moving forward and getting things done. But it's going to take time. So like, what's the balance? You can't be like, the sense of urgency doesn't mean oh, I have to go 95, 100 hours a week. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to obsess over it, and that will make it successful. Like, no, that's just not how it works. But hey, can I get this done? Hey, do I need to get this? Are there things that I can check off that I need to do now versus putting off, or just say, hey, I'll do it? Because if you said, hey, I'll do it, I'll do everything later, nothing will get done.
Exactly.
So there's certain points I believe there's like that sense of urgency, that willingness to dive into something now and get it handled. Like it compounds, because then a lot of the stuff that you're putting off or is longer term, all those little things you did, like when you get to that point, like it's a 6-month mark or a 3-month mark or a revenue goal or a customer acquisition goal, whatever it is, like you've done everything else to lead up to that point. So you're prepared for that versus having done nothing or just put everything off. Then that time comes and you have all this other work to do and sometimes you just go, F this, I'm not going to do it. So that's the way I look at it. I think there's probably like multiple views
for sure
of it, but my immediate response is business. So what do you, when you hear sense of urgency, Hayden, what crosses your mind?
Yeah, no, I love your answer, by the way. And I think similar to, the business realm, but immediately when I think of sense of urgency, I think of what do I want to do with my life? Because we all have a fixed set of time. Unfortunately, we all really don't know when that time's going to end. So to me, when I think of sense of urgency, it's okay, what do I want to do with my life? Let's be a little bit focused in terms of what are some of my short-term goals? What are some of my midterm versus long-term goals? I use the word or the phrase end in mind, meaning what do I want to achieve? And then I basically try to back into a plan of action for how I'm going to get there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you want to have a sense of urgency, as you mentioned, like, oh, I'll worry about that, 2 weeks from now or 6 months or next year. Like I've got time. I'm still young. The thing is, you get into that habit of coming up with an excuse. And we've talked about that on previous episodes where it's easy to come up with an excuse, but like you got to counter that saying, well, no, let's actually hold myself accountable. Because, if I continue to kick the can down the road, it could end up being 20 years, or it could be, X amount of time. It depends on each person's situation, but just don't keep kicking the can down the road. Hold yourself accountable and say, okay, what am I going to do? Whether they're baby steps, but I need to start doing something to achieve that end in mind or that final destination. And you got to have a sense of urgency. I think sometimes,
well, like you said, like, I mean, just like that, like the goal, personal goal setting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that sense of urgency to like start.
Yeah.
Like, I just love that. I just want to reiterate, like, I totally see that as like a critical part of start anything. Is like, if you don't have that sense of urgency to like start, then when are you going to start?
Exactly. Yeah. You got to begin somewhere. And I think too many of us, look back and regret things because we didn't get started soon enough. And like, it's like, how do you prevent that from happening? Like, look at us using this podcast as an example. We're starting things out very small with the bare minimum. We don't have, a production crew. Maybe someday we'll have
we have Jimmy, crew. But that's it.
Well, it's just Jimmy. Yeah. Sorry, Jimmy. He's used to it by now. But, and we've hit on this plenty of times, but it's just the fact that we are consistently putting in the time. We like to think that we're getting better with how we're handling these topics, the conversations with one another, with our guests. Like, we're getting better. Like, we know where we want to go. We're not going to share all those details with the public, but we know where we want to be. We know where we are today. We've gotten started and we're seeing, ourselves progress on that journey, and we're loving it. Even if we end up falling a little bit short of where we want to go, I know you and I are going to walk away just as happy or proud that we went out there and gave it our all. And that's all that we can ask for at the end of the day.
100%.
Yeah.
Now you got me all jacked up, man. You got me all excited. I want to iterate. I want to iterate. I want to iterate. I like that word. Say iterate.
Iterate.
Like, isn't that fun? It almost sounds like you're like a robot. Iterate. Iterate. We should do beatboxing thing one time.
That's all you, not me.
Iterate. I wanted to reiterate this point about sense of urgency. I've dealt with, like, in my life. So I'm a very, I believe, unique individual to an extent. I don't think I'm super special or like stand out for people, but I'm a very dive in person. Like, if you've learned this about me, and like, you know that, like, when I want to do something, I just do it. Like, I lean into it, and sometimes I don't know everything. I don't know the answer, but I just kind of like go, right? I'm wired that way.
Yep.
And so the sense of urgency aspect has really, like, there's been times in my life where it's been challenging. Like, some things I will put off, but when it comes to certain things, I've always just kind of had it. Like, I'd go. Like, don't let anything, don't put anything off. Get things done.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know, like, for other people, like, you know, people that are listening to this, when you have a sense of urgency in life, big things can come, but you're also going to get some flack for it. You are going to get some pushback, especially if it's in the workplace, or if it's in your own personal goals, or if it's in, you know, starting a business, or if it's in relationships. That sense of urgency to do things now versus wait, you know, to get after it, right, so to speak.
Yeah.
That mindset and that approach, you know, I've gotten flack. I've had people go, like, to not understand that, like, you know, why do you have to be so, why you, like, where do you get this energy? Why are you so on top of it? What, you know, some pushback. You know, you've got some people that are like, I don't understand this, right? But I think, you know, at the end of the day, that getting anywhere, you know, it's a necessary key to get to where you want to get to in life, is if you have that sense of urgency, because what it really comes down to is, like, putting time and energy into things that are good for you and benefit you, and doing it now versus waiting. So I just want to say that, like, you know, you're going to get some, if you're saying, hey, I'm going to start now, I'm going to approach things with more of a sense of urgency, I'm going to not put things off, I'm going to send that email that maybe I would have waited to, I'm going to respond to that text messages maybe I wouldn't have responded to, you're going to get some of that flack back.
Sounds like Aflac.
Aflac.
Uh-oh.
I think the Duck's here.
Is that our first sponsor?
I think the Duck's here.
I wish. So are you saying flack in terms of people pushing back on
people? It makes people uncomfortable. 100%. And maybe that's more towards my aggressive nature, but I've always like, I had the president of our company actually said to me, he goes, I remember going to him and saying, like, I know I'm stressing everybody out in the office by how fast I go, but you know, we have a mission and we have a goal here, and I'm not gonna go 50%. He's like, no, like, we need some of that. We need that sense of urgency. Like, we're not gonna get anywhere if we don't have that. But I could tell that, like, my office wasn't used to that.
Yeah.
They weren't used to that let's get it done now. Let's not wait. Let's start this now. Like, they all wanted to, you know, it's just, especially, people are set in their ways.
Yeah.
People are used to what they're used to. And when you throw a variable in, like a younger person, or like an individual that's comes in new, or comes in a new situation, or comes in with a fresh, like, you know, motivated, like, let's get after it. Let's start. Let's do this, and this. You get some flack. You do get some kickback. You're going to have to deal with that. But you'll see, like, over time, you know, it bears a lot of fruit. So.
Well, yeah, and it weeds out the people that aren't there for the long-term mission or vision.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're all rowing in the boat, or get out of the boat.
Amen to that. Another, you know, word that I was mentioning that kind of goes hand in hand with sense of urgency is accountability. And I'll just kind of dive into this first. Like, for me, accountability is basically coming up with that strategy or that plan of execution to get to that goal or that end of mind, and using some examples that hopefully the audience can relate to, or at least comprehend. For us with our podcast, and again, I use our podcast as a good example all the time. If you and I, you know, want to get to where we want to go, and, you know, we're only putting in, let's say, 30 minutes every week or every other week, like, do we really think that that's going to be what we need to, you know, achieve our desires and our biggest goals? The answer is no. We're holding ourselves accountable to a plan of, how frequently we need to meet, film our episodes, talk strategy, marketing, sales, etc. Like, we are very diligent in terms of our strategy. And don't get me wrong, we're not perfect. We're still tweaking and trying to learn what the right strategy is. But again, you and I are holding each other accountable. We have touch bases where we kind of run through, okay, what are our weekly goals here? How are things progressing? Hey, do you need help with anything? Again, it goes back to that accountability. And another just example that comes quickly to mind here is, my fitness or running program. Like, if I wanted to, become a faster runner, I've got to do X, Y, and Z to achieve that. But if I'm only, running once a week, is that really going to move the needle? Hell no, it's not.
Right.
So things like that, you got to understand that, okay, this is where I'm trying to go. This is my plan of action, but I need to hold myself accountable with putting in the time and the work, or these results won't ever come to fruition.
Well, time and effort beats everybody, beats anybody every time, in my opinion. I mean, you can get places by putting time and effort in. You might not always be doing the right thing, but it's better than doing nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna piggyback that. Speaking about accountability, so I think this is there's a lot of conversation we could have around accountability, because I think it is such a nuanced term, because there are so many places in our life that we like to literally have some new, oh, well, I can hold myself accountable in this, but I don't want to hold myself accountable in that.
Right.
And I want to hold somebody else accountable for this, but I don't hold myself. And so, I think it's interesting with Ava. So I'll bring it back to Ava. So I'm teaching, as you have kids and you start going through things, you start to hold yourself accountable more, just because you're preaching that. You're trying to preach that to your kids, right?
Yep.
Trying to teach them if you do this, there's punishment. If you do this right, you get this reward. If you and so when your kids get older, they get smarter and they call you out on it. Like Ava will be like, "Well, you don't do that, Dad. You told me to do this," and then I'm like, "Don't backtalk me," but I'm just like, oh, she's got a point. She called me out on that, and I think it's something that, again, is just there's so many. So I just figured I'd mention that, because it's just interesting, because for me, that has been a very big point in my life where, as she's getting older, I'm like, I don't want to be a hypocrite. When she asks the right questions, I don't want, when she questions something I'm doing because I'm making her do it, yeah, I'm an adult. And I can be like, well, I'm an adult because I say so. But it's I don't want to teach her that she can't question stuff. You know what I mean? I don't want to teach her.
Totally.
I don't want to teach her that just do what you're told. Even if you have a teacher that's telling you to do something and they don't know how to do it, you should call them out on it. That's my opinion. Now, you should be respectful about it. And maybe there's a setting for it, but I don't want her to learn to keep her mouth shut. Are you kidding me? So now it's making me go, how do I practice what I preach to her? And that holds me accountable for things that I'm talking about. Whether it's, we're talking about, church and spirituality, or it's, doing cleaning up your room. If I'm telling her she needs to keep her room clean, I should probably keep my office clean, right? If I'm saying, hey, you need to make sure you pick your laundry up after you take a shower, I should probably make sure I always pick mine up, right? So she sees that, and she knows Dad's doing it too, right? But if she sees me not do it and she's doing it, and I want her to know it's okay. So I went on a rabbit hole, but it's very interesting, that dynamic you have with a kid, where they make you grow so much as a person. You just you grow with them, and then you grow as a man and as an individual. So that's kind of lately it's been really a focus of mine. So speaking on piggybacking your goals, right? You're talking about if you don't hold yourself, if you have a goal, right? It's okay. We're talking about the podcast, whatever, and we want to get to here, right? And whether that goal is I want to cook 3 meals a week, right? I want to home cook 3 meals a week, or I want to run a marathon, or I want to get a promotion at my job, whatever it is, right?
Yep.
You go, okay, that's where I want to get to. And then you go, all right, and here's where I'm at, right? So I got the 2 endpoints. One's here, one's here. Here's where I want to go. Here's where I'm at. Now, what goes in between that? It varies. It will change. It's subject to change. It should be able to change because there's no recipe for success. Or actually, I don't know why I said recipe after talking about cooking food, but anyway, there's no. I just thought about kind of how funny that was. There's no like clear cut recipe. I don't care what book you read. I don't care what you do. There are tidbits and things that you can do, but again, like time and effort, right? So if you say I want to, get a promotion at my job, right? Well, what do I need to do to get that promotion, right? I'm a sales executive now. I want to be a senior enterprise account manager. Okay, well, how long is that going to take? Like, what's the fastest I get there? Okay, 2 years. How do I get there? I need to get here first. All right, so if I put more time into prospecting, if I put more effort into like learning outside and getting some certifications, if I do this stuff, right, then I can get there. Okay, great. Then you got to hold yourself. Okay, I got to do this stuff. I got to hold myself accountable to get there. But if you don't, then it's like might as well not set the goal.
Right.
If I'm being honest, if I'm giving you my real opinion, Hayden, don't even set the goal. You might as well not even goal set if you're not going to hold yourself accountable for anything. Like I'm passionate about that. Don't have expectations of getting here if you're not willing to do this.
1,000%.
Like don't. It doesn't make any sense.
Right. People bitch, complain, whine, like, oh, I didn't achieve my goal, or why didn't I get this? It's, well, you're not putting in the time and effort. You're not holding yourself accountable to what you need to do to get to where you need to be.
And there are times in life where you're going to fall short.
Yep.
Like you're going to go after the goal. You're going to fall short. It happens a lot. You're going to fall short, but if you know that you put all that effort in, you might fall short of this goal and you might hit this one. You might not have even known that was there. So again, we go down that route. I'm not a believer in, I'm a believer in manifesting your destiny. But like you manifest it because you know you're going to get there, right? I know we're going to get to this point. I'm going to manifest it. I believe in manifestation. Yep. But I also believe in the realistic and logical part of that is, okay, I want this to happen. I'm manifesting it. And you know what? I'm speaking into existence because I know I'm going to do this. People ask me, why are you confident in this, right? Why are you confident you're going to close that sale? Why are you confident you can X, Y, Z? What makes you why are you so confident? Like, because I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. Right. That's why I'm confident. I'm not that confident that I'm the expert. I'm not that confident that I'm better than anybody else. I'm just confident that like I want that. So I'm just going to work till I get that.
Yep.
And so that's my passionate belief.
I love all of that, and I think it's so awesome hearing your story with Ava. I mean, anything talking about your children's really cool. Like the way that she holds you accountable is really awesome. I mean, you're growing as an individual, as you said, and there's that dynamic at times where not only do you have to hold yourself accountable, but you have to hold others accountable. And then there's situations where other people are holding you accountable. So you described a really cool, situation with your daughter, and how, powerful and impactful that is for both of you guys. So love hearing that story. Another thing that you kind of called out, which I kind of want to dive into a little bit further, and then we can probably wrap things up for the evening, is you wanted to kind of practice what you preach, but you also mentioned like you want to teach Ava to, grow up having the confidence or the autonomy to at times push back or question in a right manner, in a respectful manner.
Right.
Okay, are you sure about that, or why is it really done that way? Which, where I'm going with this is like just the power of critical thinking.
Oh yeah.
I think that's something really critical.
I can elaborate on that. So yes, I mean, like I believe in the power of why. I believe in like the power of why. Yep. And I believe if you ask why 5 times in any situation, right? And this is like, you don't literally have to ask 5 times, but it's if you ever heard the saying, ask why 5 times, and you'll get really close to your answer, or you'll have the answer. You'll be there, right? You'll narrow it down. Like, why is this way? Well, why is that way? Well, and so, as a person, I was raised to be respectful, but not just take things because they're fed to me, right?
Yep.
Like, and I think we all could relate to this. Like, we are fed a lot of stuff, and there's some things, what my doctor says to me, I can go WebMD that, or like look online and like diagnose myself.
Yeah.
But you know what? As long as you're not like diagnosing me with something serious, or gonna put me on like some serious meds. If you're just like, yeah, dude, you need to lose some weight, like I don't need a WebMD that to know that I'm just overweight and that's why I'm not sleeping well, right? So there's things, but I think
get a second opinion too.
Yeah, second opinion. But I guess a lot of things in life, people that don't like being asked why are usually the ones that don't know the real answer or aren't as confident as they come off. We'll do this. Well, why? Because I told you. That's not an answer. Sometimes I do tell Ava that. I mean, sometimes as a parent, well, why do I have to finish my food? Because I told you so.
Right. And as you mentioned earlier on, there's nuance to certain situations. Like that will get you so far, but there's a lot of situations where it's like, no, you need to actually have some tangible facts.
Right. And even because I told you so isn't a good answer. I mean, if I think about it, we're sitting here talking to you right now. She's, why? Like, I don't want to eat more food. Well, why? Like, why do I have to eat more food, Dad? Because you didn't eat enough for lunch and you need it to be healthy. And I can explain that.
Yep.
Sometimes in life, we don't like to explain things because it's just a pain in the ass.
Right. It takes time.
Yeah.
Brain power.
Or we're just like, you know what? Screw it, because I'm your dad and I said so. But a lot of people in life are going to say, because I said so, or because it's this, or just because. And you go, well, because why? Like, and I'm trying to teach Ava there is no harm when somebody tells you to do something or not to do something in a polite way. It is, I think, quite frankly, most of the time, okay to ask why. And, I just believe in that. Like, you're allowed to be like, and I hear people go, well, it's a kid. They don't need to be explained to. Like, she's really damn smart. She's 8 years old, and she understands. And when you explain why to her, the next time she has to do something like that, she's not going to question it. Yeah. She's going to go into it like, why do I need to run harder, Dad? Well, because, if you run harder, you're going to score more goals in soccer. I don't have to explain that to her yet. Not just because I said so, not because you need to. Here's why. If you run faster, if you run harder, you'll get the ball more, and you'll score more goals, and then you'll be happier. Great. Fantastic. Never have to tell her to run hard again.
Right. And she's asking these questions 9 out of 10 times out of just general curiosity. Like, she wants to learn.
She wants to know.
She wants to be better. She's not doing this to try to piss you off.
Right.
Now, maybe every once in a while, potentially.
There's definitely times when she's like, she's like thinking, fuck you, Dad. Like,
but even applying this to, like a business setting, like, it's all right to, ask your boss a question in response to hearing something. Mm-hmm. And as we've been kind of hitting on, there is a right time and place for it, but you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not speaking up and you're kind of just, taking orders and just going with the flow. I think that's a very dangerous thing to do. And I think society has started to buy into, okay, the first piece of information that I get, I'm going to believe it. Now there's a big group of people though that don't buy into that paradigm or that way of thinking, because it's really easy to manipulate any type of story, data, information, etc. in today's day and age. So that's where I was, chiming in with your example of going to a doctor or using WebMD. Like, get a second, opinion. Have someone that has a counter to what you've learned, and then form an educated opinion based on what's best for you.
Yep.
Because no one knows what's best for you but yourself. Mm-hmm. And there's always going to be some type of bias in someone sharing their quote unquote facts, whether or not they're really facts. They might be opinions. You want to make sure that you're not manipulated or persuaded too easily. So again, that's where it's important to go out, do some additional homework. Okay, Cole told me X, Y, and Z. That's really intriguing, but is that really the case? Like, let me go talk to someone else that might share something, completely different, and then try to compare and contrast the two. And then again, kind of come up with what makes the most sense for your situation.
100%. And I'm thinking, like, I'm going back to when we went to school together, grade school.
Yeah.
The thing about this, Hayden, like, when we were in grade school, I don't even remember, like, we goofed off a bit.
Oh, hell yeah, we did.
Yeah, a bit. But I was like the troublemaker, right?
You were.
Yeah, I was the troublemaker. But I think a lot of that, looking back on it, stemmed from I liked the attention. 100%.
That hasn't changed, folks.
I love attention. But also like I wasn't being challenged in the right way.
I was about to say that, yeah.
I wasn't being challenged, and I also wasn't being asked to think critically. I was being asked to like do this, and my brain doesn't work that way. My brain doesn't like. I don't think of things as black and white. I don't think of things as one way or the other way. I think of like there are some things like 2 + 2 is 2. I mean, it's 4. 2 + 2 is 4, right? That is what that's math. There's like, math is math. Science is science. But then, is it always? Is there still sometimes other ways to do things? I fell into that like, do it this way, and if you don't fit in our box, then we're not going to address it, right? We're just going. And so I just thinking back to like even in grade school, like our experience. I'm sure you can relate. Like our experience was very much like, do it this way.
Yeah, I think what you're highlighting, or the way that I'm interpreting what you're saying, is memorize.
Yeah,
what we tell you,
not necessarily learn. Yeah, let's put it up on a whiteboard and just copy the notes.
Exactly. You remember one of our teachers? I'm not going to name drop him, but he would always say that memorization is the lowest level of learning. Do you remember that phrase?
It was the lowest level of learning.
It is.
Yeah, because you're not actually learning. Like you're just like you can memorize something, but doesn't actually mean you understand it.
Yep.
And I felt like a lot of looking back and reflecting. Like I used to like sit in a lot of classes, and like the only way you could get me, if the teacher would tell me it's okay if you read as long as you don't interrupt our class, I'd get my fantasy novel out and I'd read. Like I remember, I will name it Miss Viola. I loved her, great science teacher, but some of the stuff would get boring for me. So she let me read during class, and I got like straight A's. I did great in her class because I could go back and study later. But during class, like sometimes I wasn't interested. And she'd like, hey, I understand that like this isn't intriguing to you, and as long as you do well, you do your homework and do well on the test, I'm gonna let you like get into your own little world. But I just thinking back to that, like, and again that goes into maybe a whole nother segment of like, is because I know with Ava's school, seeing how it's changed from when we were in grade school, and maybe in its environment, it's different parts of the regions of the world, different cities and different school districts with different, whether it's private, public, there's all these different like variables, right?
Sure.
But what I'm seeing, at least for Ava's school, and I don't know if this is an anomaly or if this is a newer trend, is like they're getting outside the box with how they do some stuff with the kids. Like some of the activities she does and things that go on in her classroom and ways they learn are engaging her. Like they're doing, like they did they were talking about the Native Americans. They were learning about that, but they were doing like really, like learning really cool stories, and they were doing some cool activities and just some like really engaging stuff that I was like, that made it fun for her versus like, because when she's not interested in something, she just checks out. So, I don't know. I went down a wormhole.
No, I think that's all really important. I think you're highlighting that she's in a fortunate environment where they're cultivating critical thinking. Like she's, extremely blessed to have two good parents that allow her to, ask questions when, you guys are telling her, hey, we need you to do this, but, she wants to know why. Versus, because I told you so, or don't ask me that. And every once in a while, you're going to have those moments. That's human nature.
Sometimes it is true. Like sometimes there doesn't need an explanation. Like kids don't always need an explanation. Like, but believe it or not, like giving that explanation sometimes helps a lot, because then it's like, then there's no attitude about it.
Yeah, totally. I think to kind of put a bow on, this topic here and wrap things up for the night, we're basically highlighting that critical thinking is extremely important for any human being, no matter how old you are. You want to make sure that you're not being lazy with how you use your brain and the information that's being shared to you. I'll leave you all with just 2 additional examples to hit home on this point. The first one being, let's say you go to a doctor and you have some type of ailment. They give you, an antibiotic, and the dosage on that, is dosage a right word?
Dosage, yeah.
They give you, let's say, 1,000 milligrams when, oh, it should probably only be like 10. Like, you should critically think, okay,
This doesn't make sense.
yeah. I thought you were telling me what I'm describing doesn't make sense. That's where my brain first went.
I was finishing your sentence.
Yeah, like, hey, the doctor prescribed me a very high dose of something. Like, I've never really taken this type of antibiotic. Do I really need to be taking that much? And maybe you do, but like, maybe he made a typo when he was inputting it into the computer. Like, that's a prime example. Like, you got to be careful with what you're putting into your body, but also, yeah, just asking those questions. And another example is, let's say you're coming out to an intersection and it's a stop sign. You've got a road closed on your right-hand side, and then obviously traffic is still coming from your left-hand side, but they can only turn right into the street that you're about to leave off of. Basically, or there could be situations where it's like, okay, there's a sign to my right that says road closed, so there's no need for me to look to my right. Well, there are certainly situations where you do need to look to your right because there could be, let's say, a neighbor that still lives on that street, even though it's quote unquote closed, that could be coming. And you don't want to get T-boned. So again, those are examples where you got to use your brain and not always take things at face value.
That's like a life or death.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's plenty of other examples that we could have thrown out there, but we just really wanted to hit home on the fact that critical thinking is so important in this day and age. Don't always take things at face value. Ask the 5 whys, as Cole mentioned. And yeah, get to the bottom of the truth in the world.
Get to the truth. The truth will be told.
Well, Cole, I think we sign off for the evening. That was an action-packed episode.
It got me hyped up. Yes, I think that was a great episode. Should I do my Bane voice one more time?
Yeah, sign off with that Bane voice.
I don't know if I can do it. Oh. I can't do it.
Well, guys, girls.
You merely adopted the dog.
Perfect. Thank you so much for tuning in. We can't say thank you enough. We are continuing to learn, optimize, grow, etc. We've got some exciting guests coming on in the future. Really looking forward to what's to come. As Cole mentioned on one of our most recent episodes, we do have some merchandise on our website, which you can go ahead and take a look and buy something if you want to support us. The best is yet to be. We've got a lot of great stuff in the works. Thank you once again. Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, guys.